please give a warm welcome to former Warriors General Manager and President of Basketball Operations and our dad, Bob Myers.
Our dad spent over a decade with the Warriors, helping the team win 4 NBA championships, while also winning 2 NBA Executive of the Year awards. He's currently an analyst for ESPN and is working tonight's game.
Let's hear it for Dad, Bob Myers.
What a moment a week ago at Chase Center as the Warriors rolled the Bucks by 35 points that night. But that was the biggest deal. That was the biggest deal right there. $3 to Bob Myers as Bob Myers came back to Chase Center for the first time since being the president of basketball operations and GM of the Golden State Warriors, helping them win 4 championships. He was on the call alongside Mike Breen, and it was just a matter of time before Bob let those tears out. So we got Bob back on the Morning Roast, our old friend, back on 95.7 The Game. Bob, what a moment for you. I got chills. I have a young daughter. Shasky has a little kid. That was just a cool moment for you, man. And it was just a matter of time. Me and Willie in the gay house were counting, okay, how many seconds till Bob Myers let those tears flow? And they were well-deserved, man. What a moment for you, Bob. How you doing?
I'm well. Thanks for having me on. That I almost started crying again. That was you guys are. I know Shasky, a new dad, and you're a little bit longer in being a dad, Bonta. But yeah, man, your kids. You know how much hard to describe unless you have children. But seeing all 3 of them up there was pretty awesome. They did a little tribute video, which was good too. I would have held it together if that was all. I would have been fine. It was just a tribute video, but the girls came up. But it was good. I was telling Mike Breen on the broadcast, I said I probably should have came back before this because I just wish I could have, relaxed and had some beers or. But anyways, it was awesome. Thanks for acknowledging it. That was fun for me to listen to my daughter say that again. So how you got, Shasky? Sorry about your father. I should have called you separately from now, but I know you guys were close, so I'm sure that must still be in your, thinking about that every day. So
I sincerely appreciate that. You know what I say, Bob? And my dad, I'm not just saying this because you're on. My dad loved listening to you talk to us because you actually addressed us by our names. Joe and Bonta. It was weird. My dad always loved that, right. And this is the way I view it, right? So many people don't have relationships with their dad or didn't get a chance to meet their dad or whatever. I got 40 plus years with my dad, and it sucks that my kid won't get that same, time, but he lives on through all the things that I do, and I just got to pay it forward and continue to try to keep his memory and the legendary stories going. And I appreciate you saying that. It means a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It was obvious for everybody listening that you guys were cool, and most people don't. The truth is, most people don't have that. So that's awesome. So yeah, guys. Well, thanks for having me. I wish I could have came in physically, but it didn't work. But anyways,
you don't want to be around us. Now. Shasky didn't shower this morning, Bob. It's better that you didn't.
I take multiple showers a day.
He actually looks like he's dressed. Shasky right now looks like he's dressed. He's about to do an interview with Steve Jobs or something, and I'm just wearing some sweats and an NBA hoodie with a busted up Warriors cap right now, Bob. So I'm glad you didn't come in.
Oh man, hey, look, I'm used to working with Stephen A, so I can handle whatever you guys got.
Oh, dude, what's that like? Honestly, let's start right there because you've been on the other side of it, and look, I'm a consumer, right? So I'm sitting here and I'm watching, and I know that when you're talking about narratives and all this, like you've been peppered by the media. Now you're part of the media. What do you like? What do you not like?
Good question. I'll say this. I'm sure he's a polarizing guy. The thing I've learned is, like you guys, I think you guys both work really hard. It's not easy. People probably think you show up at whatever time, 5:55, or whatever, right before you go on. So, and then you get off and you're done. That's not the job, right? So there's this misconception of what it takes to do what you guys do and what he does. And you don't have to watch for too long to see how hard the guy works. His work ethic is unbelievable. I mean, it really is. What he does with First Take, and you cannot knock that. You can knock anything else. People want to knock Stephen A, fine, but don't knock the work ethic because this guy works at a high rate. And then as far as what he says, look, people are going to agree, disagree. he does try to get it right. And what people don't realize maybe about him is we've talked a lot off the air, and he says to me, people get upset with him, right? Athletes or anybody. They text him like you guys deal with.
Right.
I'm sure
We know nothing about that.
Yeah, we know nothing about it. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Bonta, when you do what you do, you guys do. Now, what I do is you risk upsetting people because you have to tell the truth. That's what you're paid to do, the best you can, respectfully. So Stephen A. will tell me, he'll say, so-and-so texted me, so-and-so's upset with me. And what he tells me, he'll say, Bob, do you know how much stuff I don't say to protect people? And I say, that's the part that people don't know. So just like you guys or me or anybody in media, sure, you have to sometimes go out and speak negatively on something as professionally as you can. It's your job. But people assume you're just being hurtful and mean. And you go, look, I'm just calling it like I see it as best I can. But there's a lot more I could have said about this and didn't. And so that's the part of Stephen A. where people say, and by the way, the truth is it's entertainment, right? He's an entertainer. The best part that I like talking to him about is when he covered Iverson. That's the best stuff. Because Stephen A. didn't walk onto TV. I mean, Bonta, you started as a writer. I don't know, Joe, what your background is as far as how you got into it, but Stephen A. went through the same stuff. I mean, this guy was a beat writer in Philadelphia and worked his way up to whatever, First Take and what he is now. So it's a pretty interesting story once you get over whatever you think of him today and what he says. But he's not. You guys would like him. I mean, if you came on the set, he'd be cool. You guys have met him, I think. I
met him a couple times. Yeah, he's a fun dude. He's a funny guy.
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
He's a funny dude. Now, Bob, now that you've taken a step back from the team and taken a step back from being in an organization and having a day-to-day grind, have you been able to compartmentalize what you and the team accomplished over the last decade? Does it all still resonate with you, man? You always said it was hard to enjoy winning the championships in the moment. I get it. We're now getting it here as we cover the Golden State Warriors. They're like, man, they just won 4 championships, all these parades or whatnot. Have you been able to take a step back and say, you know what? We accomplished a lot. Have you been able to step back and really enjoy those moments that you guys all had over the last decade, Bob?
Not yet. I think I will at some point, Bonta. I think so. I haven't. I do think that I was at the Super Bowl, and just seeing how hard it is to win. I heard that drop. So.
That's he thought he got away with it, Bob. He's standing up right now, clapping.
It's not a name drop to say it was at the Super Bowl.
No, we're dealing with the Laker fan here, Bob.
Pretend I didn't hear that. Just gonna pretend I didn't hear it. So, in any event, I was sitting. I was with I'm not going to even say who I was sitting with. So, the point is that you watch a game like that, and you see how close the 49ers were to winning and how close they've been and not been able to do it. And you realize how hard it is. And so I texted her after the game, Super Bowl, and I said, man, I don't know if I appreciated how hard it is to do what we did and how hard everybody works and how kind of lucky you have to get. And so I have, Bonta, in hindsight, looked back on it. And after the first one in 15, I was good then. I don't know how you guys felt as Warriors fans. I never thought, it was 40 years. I was born in 75. So it was 40. It's easy for me to track. I was 40 when we won in 15.
Right.
And so I was telling my daughters, I said, guys, because they didn't know, they were young. I said, this doesn't happen. I never thought this would happen. So I thought 1 was great. 4 is just gluttony. So I appreciate it. I appreciate what it took. I appreciate the relationships. But I still think I'm processing what we all did over that time and how uniquely great it was. And I hope that they keep doing it. I mean, I still talk to Steve. I talk to Mike. I talk to a lot of the players. They're still my friends, even if I don't work there. So I still hope they keep going and the team makes a run. But I haven't been able to sit back in the rocking chair yet and just reminisce over it.
Well, that's coming. That's coming soon. Remember when Grandpa used to do this, that, and the other? But you bring up the NFL, and I know that you got to do some work with the Commanders, but that's not what I'm asking about. I've been watching the Patriots doc, and I don't know if you've watched the actual Dynasty doc that's on about the Patriots, but there's a lot of similarities between the Warriors, Joe Lacob, Bob Kraft, where New England was as an organization, where the Warriors were before you and Lacob and everybody got involved. And then there's a lot of differences. And one of the differences is, man, they were cutthroat. They were getting rid of guys left and right, and they were not loyal to the individual. And that is in stark contrast to what I believe the Warriors have done over the last decade, which it feels like to me you're talking about friendships and loyalties and how you're texting this guy and staying close with this person. Are they just two different sports? Do you view maybe your own time differently now that you stepped away from it? Are you too close to these guys to be as cutthroat as Belichick was, or is it just the nature of the two sports being so uniquely different?
I think you said it. They're very different. They really are. I mean, the power of an NFL player is much different than the power of an NBA player. I've noticed that. I was talking to somebody about that the other day. Maybe because of the amount of players, Joe, maybe because of the fact that how many players are irreplaceable on a football team, whereas on a basketball team, if your fourth starter, let's say your fourth best player, demands a trade or something, or doesn't play well, or is a jerk in the locker room, that can ruin your team. But a football team, it's just even look at the contracts. You're seeing high level players cut.
Yep.
Real important players. They're not just traded; they're just cut. So, it's a different sport. You know what it is every game. It's almost day to day. It's almost we're going to go win this game, and every year's a new year. And in that type of environment, if you're not maybe a star quarterback or a left tackle or some position and you're so good at that position where you're going to be there and paid, it's just rare to find that in the NFL. I mean, you could be a really good player one year and then you fall off and then you're gone. It's a tough sport. I've realized that it's a hard sport for players. It's an awesome sport. I mean, NFL gets more attention, and I think you guys know because you're in media.
Right.
I had no idea. I thought I did because I worked in professional sports. Maybe you guys do. I don't know. Do you already know how big of a deal? I didn't know.
Bob,
it's a monster.
Bob, the urgency, the day-to-day of the NFL and just discussing the NFL. When we come on the show on a Monday morning, we don't have any guests. We just go guest free because people want to talk about it. They want to finger point. They want to say, this is the reason why we won it.
The lack of games, the lack of inventory makes everything such a sense of urgency.
The urgency. And I think that's the difference with football compared to baseball and compared to the NBA as well. And that's why the NBA, we see the in-season tournaments. We see the play-in situation here in both conferences. The NBA is desperately trying to create that sense of urgency. And to me, that's the biggest difference. And the players, it feels like in the NFL, are coming in a lot more prepared to play the NFL game because of the college system as opposed to the NBA. You know this, Bob. A lot of guys coming from the NBA, either out of high school, one and done. Do they have the maturity? It just feels like a lot of NFL players come in a little more mature than NBA players. I don't want to say that's a bad thing, but just look at the landscape of the NBA compared to the NFL with all the one and dones in college basketball, Bob.
Oh yeah, the draft is complete. I was completely different. If you want to hit on that, but all the things you guys said are accurate. Every team thinks what's different about you go to the NBA season and you think, well, we're not going to win it this year, or we're not making the playoffs, and it's just probably accurate. It's not going to happen. I think every NFL team shows up in training camp thinking they're going to the playoffs. I mean, look what the Houston Texans did this year. Even the Rams. Everybody thought the Rams were just going to rebuild. All of a sudden, people were saying that this is the team the 49ers don't want to face in the NFC Championship.
Right.
People, I mean, even you guys would have said, I think, hey, the Rams are done. They're not going to do anything. So the mindset. Now, in the NBA, there's probably 10 teams that go into the season, or 8 that say we're not even trying to win. It's not going to happen. We're going to get a draft pick. So as to the draft, when you're in the room talking to, whether the Commanders people that I talk to or anybody, they would say, we're going to address that need in the draft. And when they're talking about addressing a need, they're addressing real positions. When you say we're going to get an edge rusher in the draft, they're expecting that guy to come in and be their starting guy or left tackle. In the NBA, you don't really say, we got the 5th pick in the draft. That guy's going to come help us win right now. We're going to plug him in. He's our starting small forward, and we're going to go win. But that's the difference between being 19 and 21, 22,
Right.
which is what is a huge difference. I mean, if the NBA drafted guys, seniors and juniors, first of all, we'd be a lot better at it, a lot better, because the difference between watching kids play for 1 year and 3 is night and day.
Yep.
It's what it used to be honest, in the NBA, but it probably will never be again. So if you guys were GMs in both sports, you'd feel much better about drafting in the NFL. Not that that's easy either,
Right.
because you'd have more time and more maturity when you're interviewing these guys. Big difference. You guys went to college between being 19 and 21. It's a huge difference.
Yep.
19 and 22. So you have a better shot at it in the NFL. And the fact that these guys have played, 3 years at Michigan or 3 years at Alabama, that's like playing in the NFL.
Right. Yep.
So anyways, we could go on and on of that,
Well,
but I
no,
don't want to take, so.
That brings to my other point. Like I'm looking at this team right now, a guy who played multiple seasons at Indiana, and Trace Jackson Davis. I mean, he's ready to contribute right away, and he's good to go. We know, everybody knows, like number 2 overall pick, James Wiseman, it didn't work out, right? That was a tough year, COVID. He played like 3 games.
Right.
You didn't get a chance to see him and talk to him and the restrictions and everything that's going on here. But you're seeing what the Warriors are doing with these young guys right now. How do you feel when you see Jonathan Kuminga, playing up to the level that we see him playing at? Because I'm so happy for him.
Yeah, I said the same thing to him when I was driving out of the arena last week. Feels like a long time ago. It was last week. I was passing my car because they still let me. I was going to go in and park in Dunleavy spot just to mess with him, but I didn't do it. I parked in some other spot. So I was leaving, and Kuminga was walking by. And I rolled down my window and I said, "Hey, man," and I talked to him a little bit before the game. And I said what you just said. I said, "I'm really happy for you." I said, because what people don't see about Jonathan is he did work really hard in what was not a straight line to what he is now. We all know, if you watch the Warriors closely, it's been up and down and all over the place with Kuminga's his path, which when you're a top 7 pick, people forget he's supposed to come in and dominate. That's what everybody around him thinks. That's what his expectations are. He deals with social media pushback or why'd you guys, he's not playing. He's seeing his peers play a lot more, maybe less deservedly. But now he's reached a point where he's playing. He's earned it. He's got the trust of guys like Curry and Draymond and Clay and Kerr, which isn't easy to get. I think in the long run, it'll really help him. But I just told him what you guys said, which is congratulations. You're on your way. And by the way, very necessary for this team to do anything, for Kuminga to be a part of that. So I'm excited for him. I'm happy for him. I don't know if you guys interviewed him. He's a really nice kid. Can you imagine growing up in the Congo and coming over to a different country? It's crazy.
Yeah, no, Bob. Shasky and I, we got Premier Limos. Premier Limos was like, "Hey, we'll give you a ride service if you want to go to the California Classic," his first ever game. We fell in love with him in 5 minutes. And then we saw him at Media Day later that season, his rookie year. And we fell in love with him then. We were talking FIFA music, and JK's just a great kid, man. We love our interaction with him, man. He's a bright young man. We're talking to Bob Myers here on 95.7 The Game on the Morning Roast. Speaking of Kuminga and being around the team again last Wednesday at Chase Center, of course, we started this interview by playing that video tribute and your beautiful daughters with that great message there. What do you miss most about the day-to-day grind of being involved with an NBA organization?
I miss the people, first of all. I just don't get to see them as much. If you walked out of the show, you'd miss seeing Joe and the producers, and that's the first thing. I'm big into kind of, if I'm going to work somewhere for a long time, as hard as I did, I want to have relationships with the people. You mentioned, I haven't seen that documentary. I do want to watch it, but what it requires to be in professional sports, to work in it, is kind of everything. You give up time with your wife, your kids, your friends. You're not super relatable in many ways. Like you're missing all the barbecues and birthday parties because you work weekends, you travel. So this becomes kind of your second family. So the choice when you work in these things is, I'm going to lead into this and get to know people or not. And it's just all going to be about winning and losing. And I don't say one's right or wrong. For me, I wanted to, if I'm going to spend that much time in a situation, I want to develop relationships that matter and sustain themselves. So that's what I miss, seeing, just seeing Steph Curry every day. It's a treasure to be around that guy, Kerr, Dunleavy, a lot of the guys, Rick celebrating, a lot of the guys, even Draymond. Even Draymond. I do. I mean, I saw those guys last week, and I just smiled and just I miss them. And that's one part. And the other part would be the competition. It's a little bit like a drug, the adrenaline of competing. Every game, you feel that. It keeps you alive, keeps you, you're never bored, even though the losses are tough. They wear on you at times. But I'd say the friendships and the competition and being part of something where, you know, the best thing I did, the thing I'm most proud of is how happy our organization made the community. People, I think, and you guys maybe have a better lens into it, I think we really, over the time, a lot of people had a great time watching the Warriors. Like, they will remember where they were when we made the finals or we won something, or even when we lost something. We made people feel a lot in the time I was there, and they're still doing it, by the way,
right.
And still will keep doing it. But I think giving back to the fans from one that was a fan is something I never dreamed of. Like, kind of making people happy is not something I take lightly. And we gave some joy to a community that always supported the Warriors. Yeah. I mean, such an awesome fan base. So those things I would say.
Well, let me play this for you, Bob, because you brought up Draymond Green. Here's what Draymond Green said about you last Wednesday after the game.
I couldn't have asked for a special person to spend my first 11 years with, because if it wasn't for him, I'm not sure where I'd be, where my career would have gone. You know, the things that I've learned from him about being a father, being a husband, being a great person. Like, I'm not sure I'm sitting here talking to you today without that man.
When you hear that, Bob, what pops into your brain?
A lot. Gratitude that I could affect somebody that way. You know, I don't take that for granted that he listened or that he feels like I helped him or help him. So I'm grateful for that. You know, Draymond it's crazy. The thing that people never got to, or maybe you guys know, but many don't, is as far as how much Draymond cared about the team. Because when you're the GM, which I obviously was, I know who's calling me, asking me who we're going to draft or who we're going to sign or what's going on with this or calling me on the ride home after a loss. You factor all that in to 12 years, however many years we had together, he cared about the team so much. And I think many people might see the way he acted in certain situations, and he would agree that he didn't act well in certain situations. But he always cared and still does about the team and winning. And that's my favorite part of him, is that even though some people have an idea of he's hurting the team, that he never would intentionally hurt a team he was on. He would never do that. He's just not who he is. One, he wants to win so much. And two, he does, because I know, I mean, not everybody did that. And not everybody does that. They just want their money, they want their playing time, and they want whatever else they want. But he would call and say, what are we doing with our two-way contracts? So, you know, I mean, I think when you're a professional athlete at his level, people think they know who you are, and you know they do have a sense. I'm not saying people are wrong about what Draymond is, but there's another side that I got to know that is a selfless guy that really wants what's best for his teammates and his team, and he did lead in those ways. So again, Draymond and I are going to talk forever. And I'm sure we'll have dust-ups in the future, too. That's what friends do. I'm sure you guys have had them. If you don't have a real relationship, if you don't have disagreements with your wife, with your friends, with your family, otherwise, you know, that happens, right, when you're close to somebody. So that has happened with Draymond and me, too. It wasn't all perfect, but you work through it. And to hear him say those things is really nice. And I appreciate those things that he said. And I feel like he's helped me a lot understand what it's like to grow up the way he grew up and what he faces and the challenges a professional athlete coming from where he came from faces. So it goes both ways.
Absolutely. All right, Bob, I got to do this. We have to. Like, whenever I see like the Bill Walsh memoirs, you get all these details of like, he almost traded for John Elway, and Tom Landry sitting here saying like, well, if they don't make the catch, we go to back-to-back Super Bowls. And there's always these seminal moments like Pandora's box, the butterfly effect. Was there ever a moment that you think of as a woulda, coulda, shoulda, moving off Mark Jackson, signing Steve Kerr, breaking up the big three, a draft pick here and there? Like, what do you think about? Like, thank God we did this or didn't do that. There's got to be one, right? There's got to be one that sticks out.
The Kevin Love trade, right?
Yeah, like something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you work as a GM for however many years, over 10 or a decade, you're going to have a ton of those. Thank goodness that didn't happen, or thank goodness that did happen. If I have to answer your question, you know what? I mean, obviously, there's so many that I could go through and say that if this didn't happen, we never are anything. There's a few. I mean, the ones that clearly I was an assistant GM at the time, but drafting Clay was if the Sacramento Kings don't trade the 10th pick. Or Milwaukee, I guess, traded the 10th pick to Sacramento to take Fredette. I think Milwaukee was taking Clay at 10. So there's that, right? So he's gone. So there's no Clay Thompson. That's how close that was. So if they don't make a trade, which is semi-unlikely in the draft, so there's Clay, no Clay Thompson, because he ends up being a Milwaukee Buck because he's picked one pick ahead. Okay, so that's one. Draymond, we thought we had him about 20-something on our board. And we thought he'd be gone when we picked at 30. And we thought Festus Ezeli was a big position of need. And I wish I could just, I shouldn't highlight this, but who cares? We took Festus before Draymond. I know you worked with Festus. Right. I love Festus. It tells you we're not all perfect, right?
Right.
But we realized when Draymond was slipping, we were in the room going, oh my gosh, can we get Draymond Green? And so we were lucky that we got him. But if anybody takes Draymond Green, right, anybody, then none of this happens. So those are two. I'll give you another one. When Iguodala was a free agent, we had gone to a recruiting meeting with Dwight Howard and realized quickly Dwight Howard, that was not going to happen. I think he went to Houston that year. Mm-hmm. You could tell in the meeting, like, yeah, it was nice of him to meet. And this was when Dwight was kind of at the height of his powers. And so, of course, we're going to meet. And felt like that was going the other way. Leaving that meeting, I got a call from Iguodala's agent, who I used to work with. And his name's Rob Palenke. He's the Lakers GM now. And he said, hey, what about Iguodala? And I told Rob, I said, we don't have any cap space to do that. So I don't know how it would work. And we had an idea of how we would get Dwight, but we hadn't put a ton of time into Iguodala. Because we thought Iguodala was, one, going to go back to Denver, or two, there was 4 or 5 other teams that had room. So he said, what about we meet? And so we went to meet with Iguodala. It was myself, Joe, and I think maybe Travis, Schlenk, and Kirk. I forget. But there's 3 or 4 of us. So I remember I can go to the office where we met. We went up there. Andre was sitting there at the table of the conference room. And we were starting our presentation. And we were about 5 minutes into it. And Andre, as you both know well by covering the team,
right,
he just says, yo, stop. I want to come to the Warriors. So if you guys can figure it out, I'm coming. And so he said that because we had just played Denver, and he saw, because Andre's very smart, he saw what Steph and Clay were going to be maybe before anybody, and realized, I want to be with those guys. And by the way, he's a brilliant basketball mind. So he also saw what he did. He needed them, and they needed him. And he saw that 1 + 1 + 1 would equal 7 with those 3 guys, which it did. So he gave us the time, as did Rob, to figure out how to trade Biedrins and Jefferson to the Jazz, which took days of Andre turning down other offers. I told Rob 3 or 4 times, Rob, I'm trying, but don't lose Sacramento. Don't lose Dallas, because he had those 2 teams. And I said, I don't want Andre to be stuck with nothing. And so he said, don't worry, hang in there. I'll hang with you if you think you can do it. So, fast forward, we get that trade with Utah, we get Iguodala. If we don't get Andre, another thing, none of it happens, because Andre was he was the transcendent free agent. He was the guy I'm choosing to go to the Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
Now we drafted Clay, Draymond, Steph was, oh my gosh, what a gift to walk into having Curry on the team. You can't ever repay that debt. But Andre being a guy that raised his hand and said, I got options and I'm going there. The Warriors were not anything much then but a team that had went to the second round. It wasn't like I'm going to the Warriors win a championship. And so for Andre to see that and say that, I think it legitimized the Warriors a little bit in the eyes of the league, because Andre's a respected guy, and he had been on the Olympics. I think he had played. He was a top player. So anyway, I could do this for 10 hours. Wow. You want to go through the whole
Bob, the 30 for 30. Thing? Don't save it for the 30 for 30. Save it for the morning roast one day. We'll do a whole week of it.
But guys, I mean, there's 50 things.
Right.
And here's the best part is, we talked earlier about relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say when I worked with Rob, we didn't like each other, or he was a jerk, or I was a liar, or he did something wrong. We never get Iguodala. So when you guys move through your career and you interact with people, I promise you, it all comes back around. All of it. You know, all of the relationships, all the people you have on, all how you treat people. That's one thing I learned more than anything in my time with the Warriors.
Wow.
Getting Otto Porter at a minimum.
Right.
If we don't have Otto Porter in 22,
huge awesome.
Maybe. And you know what we got? I'd known David Falk for 20. And by the way, none of this is like me. This is my story of you guys asked about how we got. David Falk was Michael Jordan's agent. He was Otto Porter. I used to work with David Falk. So my point is that just like you guys, you stay in media long enough, you treat people well. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it comes back around. Right?
No doubt.
And it's all about winning and putting it into the Warriors. So anyways, there's a ton.
I thought you were going to say...
a lot of mistakes, guys. A lot of mistakes along the way, too.
Yeah, see, I thought you were going to say, like, you know, basically giving a vote of confidence for Bonta on pre and post. That's what I thought the biggest mistake might have been. You know?
You've created a monster,
I mean, the Warriors' ascension in the last 10 years is incredible.
Hey.
But Bonta Hill going from Lincoln, Washington Turkey Bowl games as the Examiner writer to the pre- and post-game host of the Warriors and the four-time champions. There is no other rise like that.
I knew this was coming.
No. But, Joe, how powerful is it for Bonta to go back to high school or college and say that story to kids?
Yeah.
That's more. That story is better than my story. Where you came from and this city, and to do what you've done, both you guys, to go back to speak to these kids and say, I was one of
100%.
Not only was I one of you, I was probably in worse shape than you guys in this classroom.
It's funny. You know? I have to speak to SF State on Friday. I'm talking to the play class, Mike Mitchell. I always go back there. That's a great story. But real quick, Bob, do you have a couple extra minutes, man? We got a couple more questions for you.
Yeah.
Stick around for a minute. You are the best. This is great. Bob Myers, former president of basketball operations with the Golden State Warriors, now with ESPN in studio, NBA Countdown. He calls games as well with Mike Breen and company.
Friend of Guru.
Yeah, big friend of Daryl the Guru Johnson. Guru's probably in the green room right now.
You have him muted?
Jealous.
Keep it real.
He's probably texting Bob right now.
I love Guru. I love that guy. I wish I had that guy in my life more. I mean, seriously. Fantastic.
Guru's a treat, man. He is a treat here. So a couple here. Andrew Wiggins, right? He's been polarizing for this basketball team. You mentioned him. Making that trade was sneaky good. When you guys made the trade, I remember real times like, wow, Wiggins is going to be able to play the easiest basketball of his career playing next to Steph, Clay, and Draymond. And what do you know, 2022, you guys win your fourth championship. But how difficult is it when an organization that is a gold standard like the Warriors, a first-class organization, has to deal with a tough situation like Andrew Wiggins? Like, you were part of the organization last year. You stepped away for 2 months. I think that's what makes the Warriors beautiful, is that they allow that stuff. They let the personal stuff not get in the way of the basketball. So they say, hey, if you got personal issues going on, go ahead, step away, do what you got to do. But how difficult is a situation like that, knowing that you have to keep it in-house, which you guys did, keep it private, and allow that player to step away to handle whatever he has to handle?
It's not difficult. It's not difficult to do the right thing, but it is difficult in the face of the scrutiny around the public. And I'm not knocking. I understand why. You know why people get upset? Because they want the Warriors to win.
Yeah.
And they want Wiggins to play. So people get upset or they speculate. It's not hard to let someone you care about go deal with a personal issue just like you guys do with each other. It's not difficult to say, go take as much time as you need. What is difficult is to answer the questions that maybe are coming from a different angle, that maybe don't understand, maybe don't care. I mean, the truth is, a lot of people just want the team to win, and it doesn't matter how you get there, just do it. And when you're inside it, you're kind of thinking, yeah, that's a short-term approach. We got to protect these relationships, so in the future, we have these players feel a certain way. They feel good about coming to work, just like you want anybody to feel good about coming to work. But it's when you have someone like Steve and Steph, these beacons of the organization, you're so lucky, because while I was there, you always have the most decent, respectful people to have these conversations with, to have these thoughts around, and think about what the right thing to do is. And it's just good people in a room making the best decisions they can. So you do realize that life happens. Mm-hmm. Life doesn't wait for work. Life doesn't decide to give you hard things when it happens when it happens. So you just do your best and try to be a decent, try to be, whether it's a friend, somebody that cares about somebody, you just do your best, Bonta. And oftentimes when you're in a public line of work, it's hard to explain some of that stuff sometimes.
Bob, I want to go back. It's June 2022. I'm closing my eyes now. You have no shoes on. You're on the Boston Parquet TD Garden, whatever the hell the name of the court is now. You're sitting next to Bonta and Mully, and you're celebrating a championship, the 4th championship. At that moment in time, what would be the more unlikely scenario in 2024?
Wow.
Chris Paul joining the Warriors or Klay Thompson coming off the bench?
Probably Chris Paul. If you're going to make me choose, I guess Chris Paul, I suppose. Although I talked to him after the game the other night. Chris is a brilliant basketball. I mean, wow. You saw the game that was it last night or the night before. I always respected Chris. He's a winner. He just hasn't won the whole thing. But everybody in the NBA knows he wins. So when Mike made that move, I saw the logic, and Chris has actually been great. We always struggled. I was always not great, I guess, at giving us the best second unit. So clearly they've figured that out better. I was just trying to get the best 5 guys, and I did try to get a bench, but I wasn't perfect at it. So yeah, I mean, neither. I thought you were going a different way, Joe. I mean, sitting there with bare feet and drinking whatever I was drinking.
You called us the next morning, Bob. You called us the next morning. Remember that? Raymond Rooney goes, Bob just called you guys. He wanted to talk to you and Shasky. I'm like, he just won his 4th championship. We should be the last guys he wants to talk to. Yeah, man. No, it's I remember that we were up quite late that, but whatever. Okay, so here's the thing. I enjoyed that one. I enjoyed all of them, but I really enjoyed that one more. I let myself, I should say. It's not that I didn't enjoy the other ones. I let myself be a little selfish and just say, screw it. I'm not, because I changed. You get drenched with champagne. I was thinking I'm just going to do this in shorts and a t-shirt. I don't know. It's like you've been there before, I guess. If you're lucky, you've been there before. And socks on.
It was. I
think I was holding your cup. Bob's like, "Yo, Bonta, hold my cup for a second." A chalice.
It was a chalice.
Hold my chalice for a second, Bonta.
Yeah.
And I'm
Cat Williams would have been proud.
I mean, so in that series, I think we lost game. What did we do? We lost game
3.
Game 1, you blew. You scored like 8 points in the 4th quarter. Shasky and I
was alone up in the rafters with Sully from Sullivan's, tavern up in the rafters. We lost game 3, and it was every time Draymond touched the ball, there was a chant that was going on.
Yes.
I was lucky to get out of there alive. And then game 4 was the greatest road game I've ever been to in my life.
That was unbelievable. I mean, game 3. So we lost game 3, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We lost game 3.
Emphatically.
I was walking out of game 3 because I just wanted to walk back. The bus takes forever after the game. So I just said to whoever, our security guy, I'm just going to walk back. So I'm not that recognized. So I walk out of TD, and TD Garden was what it was then and what it is now. And I'm walking by myself, and these fans are screaming at me, not nice stuff, the Celtics fans. And I look at them, I go, you guys won. Why are you so upset? Like, you're up 2-1. Why are you yelling at me? You won the game. I could understand if we had won and they were upset. But I was laughing to myself. I was like, man, these fans are different. You know, they were up 2-1. They were screaming at me, and I was just walking home in my suit. So to figure out a way to come back there in that game 4, you're right. You guys, I mean, that Curry's performance, that is the best. That performance, there's two in the finals, the two best performances I've ever seen that I saw in person were that and LeBron's game 1 when he had 50. Remember when he had 51? That was the J.R.
Smith game. Yep.
That game 1.
He was incredible in that game.
He was I've never seen a player dominate a finals game.
Right.
What do you have, like 51, 13, and 12?
Yeah, some sick.
And we held him down.
Right.
Yeah, we held him down.
Right.
I mean, and I was watching that going, we built this great team. I go, there's nothing else we can do, and this guy's just making it look easy. And then when we won that game, I figured that was it because this guy can't do anymore. But then Curry's game, you're right, that game. And by the way, who deserved that more than Curry?
I know.
Just quiet everybody.
Oh,
just quieted everybody. So
LeBron to the Warriors next year? Yeah? you feeling that? I'm in on it. Let's go.
Hey, listen, Bob.
Let's go, Bob.
Look, the fan in me is like, I'm intrigued. But the media member in me is like, oh boy, it's gonna be
Bonta
nonstop.
Hill, and here comes the King on Post Game Live. Mully the King played great tonight.
That's only if he wants to talk to me.
Come on, Bob. He would love it.
Bonta would love it. I'm sure he would.
Yeah,
Bonta would love it. Bonta's all about that stuff.
Bob's not touching that. Real quick on the Warriors before we let you go. Steve Kerr yesterday right here on this station with Mark Grandy and Dan Dibley. You know, he said this team is primed for a good playoff run, and we believe if they're wholesome and healthy, they can scare a lot of teams. They shouldn't fear any teams. But what needs to happen for the Warriors to make a real run in the Western Conference, Bob?
Health, which it seems like it was there for a minute, and then Curry, but it looks like he's coming back pretty soon.
Yeah.
So that's one. So you got that. Yeah, I mean, you still have Curry, still top 5 player in the NBA, no matter how you slice it. So having him, it gives you a chance in every series. I think the starting lineup they got going has been working. Matchups, there's matchups that are better for the Warriors than others. And you guys know, you could probably see that. People listening can see that, the pathway to getting there. So, look, I don't think the Warriors fear an opponent and say we can't beat a certain team. And that's great. They got great experience. They got championship coach, championship team, championship players. I just don't – you just want to – if there was a way to make it out of the play-in, it just makes your path easier, right? It's not that the Warriors can easily get out of the play-in.
Right.
You win a few games, you're out of it. But as you guys know, the toll, you want to play as few playoff games as you can to make big runs. It's exhausting. It's taxing. And so I think this team has the opportunity to do it. I don't think there's a series where you put them up against anybody and say Warriors can't beat this team. But it's not going to be easy, but that's okay, right? It's not like in 22, there was Denver was a little banged up, but that Memphis team, that was a 6-game series. That wasn't easy. These playoffs are going to be so great because you can't say in any series, well, I don't need to watch this series because I know who's going to win.
Right.
Maybe Boston's round, but even let's say Boston goes up against Philly with Embiid in the first round.
It's tough.
They don't want that.
Yeah. Miami, if they meet Miami's giving them problems. Yeah. It does have a March Madness feel to the NBA this season.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want the Warriors in the first round. And people may not want to hear me say this, but people don't want to play the Lakers either in the first round. You don't want to play LeBron, Anthony Davis.
No.
And so I think as a fan, obviously, I want the Warriors to do really well, so I hope they get the right matchups and favorable matchups and they're healthy. But take away that part of it, I've never been more excited to watch the NBA playoffs because you don't know what's going to happen. I think we'll see a lot of 6 or 7 game series, which are the best, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there'll be a lot of sweeps. So it's
definitely not in the West.
This last stretch of Warriors games are so important that even the stretch. Remember the stretch runs? We used to go like 8-8 in the last 16 and still be the ones. It was just hurry up and get to the playoffs. These games that are coming down the pipe. These are all important.
What was the biggest disagreement? You, Steve Kerr, Lacob, whoever. What was the biggest disagreement? Whether it was a player, rotation, draft pick. I don't want to ruin relationships, but I want to know, like, what was the biggest point of contention in terms of, and no one could agree on something?
What is that? Man, we just think, geez, trying to think of that one. There isn't one that was where people were slamming the table and I'm out of here if you do this. We were pretty good at collaborating on stuff, Joe. We didn't have one knockdown, drag out. Steve wanted. It was well documented. There was the Avery Bradley GP2 argument a little bit.
Was that more for the players? Was that players against the front office?
There was a game. There was a game where even Curry, who's the nicest. You guys know who he is. Best human being alive. He's going to run for president, apparently.
Are you on that ticket?
I'll vote for him.
Yeah, you on that ticket with him?
He seems to be better than the candidates we have right now. I don't want to get political.
Campaign manager.
Right.
Yeah, I'll organize the San Francisco district, which would be the easiest job in the world, right?
Seriously.
So Curry was a little bit on Avery Bradley, and we were playing the Lakers. And I told Steph, I go, because Peyton was hurt. Gary was hurt in training camp. And so he didn't really have a chance to make his case. So I told Steph, I said, why don't we just talk after the game? And we were at the game on the road playing the Lakers. And Gary came back and played. And I think he had a minute restriction. It was a preseason game. And I think he made like 2 plays. And during the game, and really good plays, like winning plays in the game. Like a block and a dunk or a steal. So Curry was on the bench. I was sitting 5 rows behind the bench. So Curry stands up in the second quarter and turns around and mouths like, yeah, maybe you're right. He looks at me during the game. And so we were laughing. So Steph did come around even on that point, like so it wasn't like it was some big contentious thing, but Joe, I don't have one. I wish I had a better story for you, but we were pretty aligned on most stuff.
So I guess we found the one thing Curry's not good at, picking that 11th, 12th man on the team.
Player evaluation.
Yeah. What is that guy not good at? Bob,
doesn't have a future as a
It drives
GM.
me nuts. He's good at darts. He's good at this. He's good at that. Like, what is he not good at? Come on, there's got to be something.
I'll tell you what I'm most jealous of about Curry. It's not the shooting. It's not the golf. It's that he enjoys his life so much. I wish. It's not like we all don't want to do that. Maybe you guys do it. Maybe you've got that part figured out. I would tell him too. I say, Steph, he just has so much joy inside of him. I think that's why people like him so much. Right. And he's so great to be around. It's real. And so even if I wasn't in the NBA, no matter what you do, if you were, whatever job people have, like, to bring that much joy to what you do is pretty unique. That's the best thing he does. What can he not do well? Maybe like the 15th guy on the team. Right. What a tough thing to be bad at. I don't know who the 15th guy on the NBA is.
It's all right. We got Farhan for that.
No. Don't do that, Shasky. Don't do that. Don't you put Bob in that spot, man. Don't you put him in that spot. This is how we get in trouble.
Come fix my Giants.
You know what? Since we're here, since he's opened up Pandora's box, a lot of our audience believe it. Shasky got me in trouble with Draymond Green. They're blaming Shasky for that.
Come on.
You're taking line bullets for Shasky.
Come on.
Shocked you talking to me.
It may be true, Bob.
Bob, what did you think when you saw it?
Oh, boy.
It's Draymond. It's who he is. I didn't know. Again, Bonta and I talked a little bit, but what did I think? I mean, I've been on the other end of that stuff too, guys. So it's part of the deal. I think, one, it says if he's going to come down your road like that, he respects you, right? I think in some way he's listening. He heard it, and he respects you enough to tell you. I think he would probably say he wished he could have done it a different way. I hope, But look, I think what it is for me, Joe, is it's an opportunity for those guys to have a relationship.
Yep.
As crazy as people listening might think, what are you talking about? Draymond said, I would look at that as, okay, now I have a chance to have a real conversation with this guy, and out of that, I might get a real relationship with him.
Yep. No, my mindset is too, when we do sit down at some point to say, hey, thank you, because I want to check myself and get better at what I do. And whatever I said, we apologize and we move on as grown men, and we'll be better for it in the future, because Draymond's treated me like a professional every step of the way since he's been here. And even his mom, Mary Babers Green, she came on with us during that NBA Final Series after Game 3. Spent 30 minutes with us.
She was like, I don't know what he's doing out there.
She was like, yeah, she was like, I don't know what Day-Day, what's going on with Day-Day. I got to talk to my son, but it's all good, man. Look, man, it's something that we'll never forget. It was a lot of fun. We got a lot of laughs at it, and we move on. But the most important part is the Warriors getting on the run here and try to get to the playoffs. But Bob, this is special, man. It's always fun talking to you. We appreciate it, man. We always, you're so well spoken. We pull for you wherever you go, whether it's the Commanders, consulting them at ESPN, and you're always thorough with us and straightforward, man. So Bob, we miss you. It's always good to catch up with you, man. And what a moment for you last Wednesday at Chase Center to have your daughters hit you. I knew that was a surprise, but the video tribute we knew was coming, but your daughter's coming out there and making you tear up, man. That was a very cool moment for you, man, and it was well deserved.
Yeah, no, thank you guys, and congrats on all your success. I'm happy for both of you guys, so keep it going.
Bob, this is now my opportunity to work on our relationship. If you ever need somebody to help co-host that podcast with you, I will leave Bonta in 10 seconds. I'm available after 10.
He would too. He's actually available after 10. What happened to the podcast? What did you do? One episode?
I subscribed.
I did like 10 of them. I'm not trying to be, huge. Those take a lot of work. I just wanted to talk to people I respect and like. So who knows? Those are hard. You do them. They take a lot of. If you do a lot of them, who knows, man? One day at a time, we'll figure it out.
No doubt.
This is why you're the best.
So, no doubt, Bob.
So,
thanks for coming on, man.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Sorry, Bob. Appreciate you, Bob. Bob Myers, president of basketball operations.
That was great.
We're supposed to only have him for 20, 30 minutes.
Dude, he's the best.
We go 52 minutes. Hey.